We have set a tone for talking about amazing omnichannel stories today, and we're not going to stop. But we've been very much, we have been a bit focused perhaps on the European side of the pond for the last half hour. We're now going to leapfrog ourselves over to the other side of that pond, but to talk about yet another household name and another great story about driving success with omnichannel personalization strategy. Home Depot, which is a name I'm sure you all know, their founders opened their first store in Atlanta back in 1979. And their vision was for a superstore that would offer a huge variety of merchandise with highly trained staff to offer customers personalized advice for their DIY needs. And thanks to its focus on supporting these customers, Home Depot has now grown to more than 2,300 stores in 3 countries and has scaled its online presence to offer leading digital experiences for its customers. Now, I think this session and the topic is quite timely because around the world, marketers are gearing up for peak season where, let's face it, a lot of the yearly revenue comes in, lots of acquisition of new customers, and people need to be nurtured through that process to keep them engaging and make sure they're customers after peak season. So as we're all thinking about this, I think you'll find it very helpful that Mauricio from Home Depot is going to take us through how he's transformed their approach to what Mexico calls their hot sale season, I love that term, and an opportunity to acquire new customers and collect really valuable customer data. So joining us to tell the story is Mauricio Gonzalez, the online experience manager from Home Depot. He's joining us from Monterrey, Mexico. Mauricio's been at Home Depot for 10 years, so he has a wealth of experience to bring to the conversation. He's currently focused on delivering Home Depot's customers the best possible online experience that, surprise, surprise, suits their DIY needs, back to their values and their focus as a company. He is going to be partnered by Stephanie Dimont, who's a product marketing manager at Emarsys, a member of my team, who's here in London. She's been with us for a number of years now and has over 10 years in product marketing and has also her own perspective and a lot of knowledge to bring to this topic. So without further ado, can I hand over to Mauricio and to Steph?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you so much, Mauricio, for joining us today.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. I've been watching the Part 2 Marketer sessions for several years now, but now I'm on the other side of the screen. You know, I'm a little nervous, but it's going to be fine.
You're going to be great. I'm really excited about this session because I think it's one that retailers around the world will be able to connect with. And I'm from Canada, so I know Home Depot well, but for those who are listening from outside North America, I was hoping you could first share a bit more about the company and your customers.
Sure. So, you know, like Sarah mentioned and you mentioned, Home Depot is well known. People, you know, it's a very iconic store in the American retail landscape. Well, what many people don't know is that Home Depot is actually located in Mexico as well. We've been operating there for over 20 years now and enjoying the same degree of success as in the United States. So the core value of Home Depot in Mexico is the same as the original version in America, which is, you know, get everything you need all under the same roof for your home improvement needs with the best low prices every day. And, you know, when Home Depot came into Mexico over 20 years ago, the market in Mexico was very fragmented. There were a lot of smaller stores all around the country. So nobody was offering quite that same concept as Home Depot. So that's why we've been able to have such great success over the years. And 10 years ago, we launched our e-commerce website that was fully transactional. So that was something that was not happening at the time for many retailers. So we were ahead of the curve. And I think that has helped us have success over the years as well.
Amazing. It's great to hear how quickly Home Depot has grown in the region. Most of those listening in today will be from outside Mexico. So next, I thought it would be nice to hear about Mexico's growing e-commerce market, how it's different from other regions, and specifically this sales event.
Right. So something very cool that I heard just a few days ago was that Mexico, in terms of e-commerce growth, has been the #1 country in growth for e-commerce for the last 2 years in a row. So that was great to hear. And the other thing I was told was that Mexico is currently has 13% of the shares of the e-commerce sales globally. So that's a huge number. We're ahead of emerging economies on e-commerce like Russia and Singapore. So that was great to hear. And that, really drives the point that Mexico is a big player and we keep growing every year. We've been growing every year, double digits. And, the pandemic was a huge part of that growth. But even just last year, which I would consider a post-pandemic kind of year, we had over 23% growth from the last year. So, I believe it's just a very good success story, Mexican success story for us on e-commerce. And I think, something that people don't often talk about is the hot sale season. So the hot sale was an event created by the AMBO, which is an Mexican organization for e-commerce. They are, focused on growing and developing e-commerce in Mexico. So they created this event over 10 years ago to incentivize and make people buy online for the first time. There were a lot of buyers back then that were shopping in stores that were kind of afraid of buying online. Is it safe? Is it safe for me? Is it easy to shop online? Will I get the product? Those kind of concerns that people had over 10 years ago. So the event was created just for that, so that people could, buy for the first time with super, super aggressive prices and promotions. And every year has been bigger than ever. Just the one that came a few weeks ago was our biggest event yet. So I would attribute part of the success of the e-commerce in Mexico to this event in particular.
Amazing. I think a lot of marketers struggle to prepare for these events, whether it be hot sale, Black Friday, Singles Day, or just these peak sale seasons. So next, I thought you could walk us through your approach.
Sure. So, I think what works for my team and I is that before you even start planning and making a strategy for this big event, you should look back onto what you did the previous year, what worked, what didn't, and then start from there. Capitalize on what worked, integrate the things that you learned along the way, and just, make the event the best way possible. So something that really has worked for us in terms of automation and personalization is, I would say, it's 3 key points of 3 types of segments. So the first one is fairly common. Everybody uses it, I know, which is, the categories that the customer browsed or clicked in the previous weeks. That's very normal. People use it all the time. But 2 things that we developed alongside the strategic services team at Emarsys, which before I delve into that, I got to give a shout out to Ashley Buffo and Ashley Kennedy, who helped me and my team, get the most out of that program. So that's something that I'm super thankful for. I will talk about that a little bit more later on. But we created 2 types of automations and segments. The first one is very immediate, which is we know that most customers, when they're going to shop online for a big season, they already kind of know what they want. Most people know, hey, I'm going to buy a fridge or I'm going to buy a washing machine. So even though they want to be surprised at the event and they might buy something else, they have that one big thing that they're looking for. So what we do on those kinds of situations is that on the landing pages and any other pages that we have on our website, we really straight up ask them through a sign-up form that, hey, what category are you interested in on this event? And I'll send you the latest info on the deals on the day one of the event. So that's something that has really worked for us. I'm going to show a little bit of that on the next slide. And then the other segmentation and personalization that we've been doing is called progressive profiling. And what it's really all about is that we go beyond the categories. We try to go for something, I'm going to say timeless, I think, which is like, what are you interested in long-term, or what is your hobby with Home Depot? There's a lot of things that, customers have a long-term interest in. For example, if you're a person that likes to stay on top of the latest decor trends, Home Depot has a lot to offer you. So you're probably going to be, even if you buy a flooring or you renovate your kitchen, you're going to be interested in the latest decor trends for the next years to come. Same thing for, I'm a cleaning freak myself. So I'm always going to be interested in buying the latest products for cleaning, even though you never stop cleaning your house. I'm always going to be interested in that. Same thing for people that own gardens. If you have a garden and tend to it constantly, you're interested in the latest products, the latest projects, the latest tips and content for your garden. So that's something that we're taking advantage of for this peak season and just in general. So how does it look? How do we capture it? It's fairly easy, and we try to make it as non-invasive as possible, which is like I mentioned, on the landing page for the hot sale season, we ask them through a sign-up form, what category are you interested in? And then we store that in our database and we send that information through an automation on the first day of the event. But the other one is a pop-up that we developed with the Strats team that basically visually asks you what category of concept you're interested in. So like I mentioned, you could be interested in technology, in gardening, in cleaning, in tools, and that's a very long-term kind of interest. So we take advantage of immediate and long-term interests. And then you might wonder, like, how does it look? Like, how does it come alive? So, I have several pieces of content that I can show you. Obviously, when on the first day, I'm going to say it like at 7 a.m. in the morning, I'm not going to send it at 12 a.m., but at 7 a.m., the customer will receive the email for the category or concept that we're interested in with the best promotions, the best prices, the best products for that type of, concept. For example, I'm showing there the technology one and the gardening one. So depending on the interest or the category, we're going to send just that to the customer. But that doesn't stop just there. If you enter our website, you're going to be seeing personalized banners and attraction heroes where you can see the latest content on gardening, the best deals. And then we also use for these kind of events SMS messages with the people that opt in, and we send those messages to the customers. So if a customer is interested in gardening, they're going to be receiving, hey, check out the latest promos on gardening at the Home Depot. So those are the things that we usually do to get the most out of our data, get the most out of our segments that we have. So that's something we're very proud of. And the engagement is through the roof. I'll be showing some of that on the next presentations.
Amazing. I love that you're asking customers for data, but then immediately providing the evidence of the value they get in exchange. You also said that a lot of these new customers coming to Home Depot in this time might have never shopped online before. So how do you ensure that they get a good experience, stay online, and continue coming back?
Yeah, so it's basically, like I said, hot sale season was created to get customers to buy online for the first time. And that is true for us. Over the years, we've noticed that over 50% of the customers that buy during this season are actually new customers. So we at Home Depot believe that you gotta talk to these customers differently. They're not the same as a customer that buys online all the time. This new person that's buying from you, they want to know more about you. They want to be, immersed in what does Home Depot stand for. So once again, shout out to the strategic services team, because we created alongside with them something we call Welcome Series, which is once you buy online with us for the first time, you're going to be receiving, or you're going to be entering an automated flow of contents, 3 types of contents that you'll receive during a week. And the first content is some sort of introduction to Home Depot, which is, what does Home Depot stand for? Our story, our brands, get to know us, but also get to know you. Like I mentioned, we use progressive profiling to ask the customers, what is their hobbies? What do they like about Home Depot? What's their favorite room? And then we personalize of that. So on this Welcome Series, it's not about just getting to know us, but getting to know you through these questions. And we're going to be using that data in later pieces. The second piece is education, which is we're going to be talking about, the benefits of buying at Home Depot, the services that we offer, payment and credit options, our extended catalog, online-only catalog. So that's something we also want to share with our customers. And then the last piece, which is very important, is motivate you to get inspired. What do we offer in terms of projects, in terms of products? shop the look inspiration, top categories, and promotions. So those three pieces of content, inform a higher strategy of onboarding a new first-time buyer customer into Home Depot and getting them to, engage with us and get to know us. So that's something we do, but that doesn't stop there. Once the customer stops being on that automated flow, they enter another flow, which is the projects flow. And remember I mentioned that we ask them questions on the welcome series. Well, those questions and that data, we use it for later segmentation and personalization. So for example, on these particular pieces that I'm showing, I send a general piece where I tell them, hey, what's your next project? These are the latest promos. But if you mention that you're interested in technology or gardening, you're going to be getting that same content, but with different information regarding your interests. For example, you will receive a content for gardening with the latest concepts for gardening, promos, projects, and then technology, you're going to be getting, hey, these are the latest things we have in technology, the latest gadgets, the latest tips for you. So depending on what kind of customer you are, you're going to be getting different content. And the content that's personalized to your hobby or needs gets better engagement than the one that's very broad or general. So for example, I would say it's about 8 times higher engagement in general when you get a personalized content from Home Depot. So that's something we worked on with the Strats team, and that was super successful, and we're proud of that. Something we also do that doesn't stop there. Let's pick up on the example for gardening. So if I go into more personalization for gardening, let's say you're a customer that likes tending to your garden. So we have different automations for that customer. If you buy a product that it's a gardening product, you're going to get a post-purchase email or post-purchase landing page that we created at the website for what's the next project, what are the next products that you might complement on your first purchase or original purchase. There's also the next project, which is if you bought a certain project from us for gardening, what is the next project for your garden that you could be using? For example, if you bought irrigation systems, but you could also be buying the grass, or you could be getting fertilizer. So that's something that we also offer, and we send it to the customer depending on where they at the buying funnel. But something else we do is we curate specific emails depending on what are the latest trends at the moment. So something we do is we send a daily email to these customers with very specific content. And that has very high engagement. The piece you see there, which is called Daily Email, is a piece based on urban vegetable patches, which is something that's very hot in Mexico right now. And that's saw a click-through rate of over 400%, which is like huge. I've never seen that before. And which means that probably many customers opened the piece, engaged with it, and days later they opened the piece again and saw it again because there was a lot of relevant content for them. We're very proud of that and what we've been working on these kinds of personalizations. So that's something that I wanted to share where, tradition meets transformation.
Okay, so Hot Sale ended in Mexico around 2 weeks ago. So next, let's check out the results.
So yeah, like you mentioned, we saw great results on this season. The engagement for personalization was 8 times higher than average during the Hot Sale season. And our sales obviously increased in double digits. So that's, aligned with the customer, with the market in general, and aligned with our expectations. And the conversion rate kept increasing, even though we have a very good conversion rate with all of our Emarsys contents, it increased 5%, which is great to have during this high season. Something that I'm very happy to share is that we were the top 6 retailer in searches during the peak season. And that's huge for us because we're a specialty store. We're not, general assortment kind of store like, for example, Amazon or Walmart. So to be up there is, a very humbling kind of achievement, but we love that bit. We love to be up there and for people to like us, buy from us, and consider us for their purchases.
Thank you so much, Mauricio. I'm sure a lot of marketers will have found that helpful, especially as we approach the second half of the year. Next, I'd love to ask you a few questions. The first being, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give a fellow marketer preparing for a high peak holiday season?
Yeah, so what works for my team and I is you gotta look at what you've been doing on the previous events. That's where it starts. So what did you do on the previous event that worked? What did you do that didn't work? What didn't work, just cut it out. Have no mercy on that. But what did work, how do you capitalize on that? What have you learned over the months leading up to these events like Black Friday or Singles Day or Hot Sale for us, and build on that. And if I would say approach your Emarsys representative and see what else is out there that you could integrate into your marketing strategy for the hot sale season. I do that all the time with Diego. I hope he's watching, because that's something that has really worked for us in the past and in the present.
You also said that you worked with Emarsys' strategic services team. So I also wanted to know, what was it like working with them, and what was your biggest takeaway or divergence from your previous thought process from that project?
Yeah, right. So it was a fantastic process. I miss them, and hopefully we'll work again very soon. And something that I would say really, was the best thing about the project itself, besides all the things we worked on together that, has seen great success, as I mentioned on the previous slides, is that, you see your strategy from a different point of view. You do things a certain way, you automate a certain way, you personalize a certain way. And this particular team is specialized in showing you the different ways you can, increase your engagement, make things better, or even integrate things that you didn't know were possible before. So once you start doing that and you see the results, it's just fantastic. And so the biggest takeaway for me was just that it opens your mind to different kinds of way of making marketing, automated marketing and personalization. So very happy to share that with you.
Amazing. My last question is, you're doing so much already, but I want to know what's next. So what do you have planned for end of 2004 or 2025?
Of course. So this kind of success that we had with personalization and automation is just the tip of the iceberg. I think we got to still continue to push that forward, refine, see what works, see what doesn't, what other, personalization, what other segments or type of buyer personas we should be working on next. That's something that it never stops. You always have to be working on those types of refinements. So we'll keep on that. But also, I think we have to start, we use AI for a lot of things, but I think, it could always be more. There's so much that's going on right now. There's always the latest new trend, a latest new thing that you could be doing. So that's something that we're looking into. From the perspective of production, we produce a lot of content, a lot of landing pages, a lot of, text that we could be working on AI better to get more done. And the last thing I want to say is that what's next for our marketing strategy is that we're working on a new app that should be launching in the next few months. And we're working alongside Emarsys to really bring that to life with, the latest things you can do with an app, the latest engagement tactics. That's going to be great. So that's something we're working on with you guys. And, can't wait to share that next year, the success story of the app.
Thanks very much, Mauricio and Steph. That was a really fascinating session. Mauricio, I have to say, first of all, there's been comments in the chat. We love how you're on brand with your apron. We think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Fantastic.
This is especially made for the session. So
love it. That is a true marketer in my view. And thank you for making the amazing connection to our theme of tradition and transformation. That was I enjoyed that personally. So thank you for that. Before I let you escape, can I throw one more question at you? Then we'll promise to let you get back to the rest of your day. You've done an amazing job of making personalization utterly fundamental to everything you do. And you were showcasing that in so many ways. But many marketers want to do that, but I think they're a little overwhelmed by actually doing it, and then they struggle. You really seem to have found the secret sauce. Do you have any advice you could give to people who are really trying to do some of the interesting things that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's true. It is a struggle to get everything done, get it ready, test it. But I think the first thing you got to do is make sure you're focused on the right things and the right core messages, and have your team, all the marketing teams aligned. Because I'm in charge of the website and the emailing, SMS, but there's also social media team. There's the overall marketing team, the TV team. All of them have to be aligned with the overall strategy. So the more you work alongside all the other parallel teams, you're going to get the most out of your marketing strategy. So personalization, can be hard, but as long as you have the right people alongside with you and, you're very focused on what you want to do, I'm going to say that's the key to the success. You might want to do everything at the same time. I know I'm like that, but, as long as hey, what are the main things I got to do first before I head into so many other things, I think as long as you focus and you have the right people, the right teams, and everybody aligned, you should be good to go. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that will give a lot of encouragement to people out there who will be looking at what you're doing and really wanting to take it and apply the learnings into their own businesses. Well, Mauricio, thank you very much again for taking the time to be with us and to showcasing all the fantastic things you're doing. Congratulations on Hot Sale. It clearly went exceptionally well. And we will definitely want to have that, and we definitely want you back next time to talk about the app. So we will be looking forward to chapter 2 of the Home Depot Mexico story. Excellent. All right. Consider it a date. Wonderful. Anybody who has any questions for Mauricio or Steph, please do feel free to connect with them directly. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share anything they didn't have the opportunity to in their session.